Today, we're going to spend a little bit more time working with metric conversions and kind of giving you some hints to help you with converting between metric units. So the one thing I want to point out to you is the metric system is a really, really nice system to work with conversions because they follow a base 10 system, which is very similar to our number system. So if you look here, a lot of times you'll see metric conversions and they will give you the different conversions. You'll see that meters, once again, is to measure length, grams is to measure weight, and liters is to measure the capacity or the volume amount of liquid in something. So the one thing that's nice is if you look at these charts, all of them are the same. The only thing that's changing is the base. So either whether you're dealing with meters, grams, or liters. So once again, like 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. 1 kiloliter is equal to 1,000 liters. So what's nice is if I would have only given you this section over here, you can use that for also meters and liters conversions. You just have to change the G to a capital L if you're doing liters, or the G to an M if you're working with meters. So what I want to do is sometimes it can be hard for fifth graders to know whether you need to multiply or divide when you are converting. A lot of times I like to visualize the units in my head and I want to think about, well, what is the bigger unit? What is the smaller unit? Does it make sense for my answer, my number part to be bigger, or should it be smaller? So today I'm going to kind of create a little graphic organizer for you, and I'm going to show you how it can be very helpful. So if you don't like using this table and you would prefer to make this graphic organizer, it will definitely help you learn when to multiply or divide to convert. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit to give some space to make my graphic organizer here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on meters, remembering that I can convert it to use the exact same tool for grams and for liters. So in this case, I'm going to start with an M for my base unit, meters. And then I want to think about the different units of length in regards to size. So I'm going to put the largest unit, so the largest unit is going to be on the left side, and the smallest unit is going to be on the right side. Okay, so, well, the only one that we're working with, there are more units in here than what we've been using, but I'm going to put kilometers over on this side because I know that kilometers is a lot bigger than a meter. It's 1,000 times bigger. The next size smaller is centimeters, and then the last size is millimeters. And now what I can do is if I know how many meters are in a kilometer or so forth, that's going to help me fill out the rest of the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an arrow, and I'm going to say if I'm going from kilometers to meters, well, 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. So I'm going to multiply by 1,000. Okay. Likewise, if I'm going from meters to kilometers, I'm taking my meters and putting them into groups of 1,000 to find out how many kilometers I have. So I'm going to divide by 1,000. Anytime I'm going from the larger unit to the smaller unit, I'm going to use multiplication. So I'm going to start by putting my multiplication signs there. From meters to centimeters, well, each meter, if you go back up here, is equal to 100 centimeters. So I would multiply by 100. So if I have centimeters and I'm trying to figure out how many meters that is, I need to put them into groups of 100. So I'm going to be dividing by 100. If I'm going from centimeters to millimeters, I know that 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters. So I have to multiply by 10. If I'm going from millimeters to centimeters, I need to put my millimeters into groups of 10 to form my centimeters. So I'm dividing by 10. So you can see there's this pattern going on. Every time I go from a larger unit to a smaller unit, I'm going to be multiplying by 10 because I'm taking that larger unit for example, a meter, and I'm splitting it into tinier pieces, which means I'm going to have more pieces. So it makes sense that my answer is getting greater, which is why I'm using multiplication. If I'm going from my smaller unit to my larger unit, I am dividing by, nope, I shouldn't have wrote divide by, multiply by 100. I'm using division because I'm taking my smaller pieces and I'm grouping them into groups to make them into a larger piece. So that's why my number is going to get smaller. So I'm dividing. And then last but not least, the only one in here that I did not include is if we were going from meters to millimeters. So if I made this jump from meters to millimeters, I know that 1 meter is equal to 1,000 millimeters. So I would have to jump, if this is multiplied by 10 and, or multiplied by 100 and multiplied by 10, this from meters to millimeters would be multiplying by 100, or sorry, 1,000. And if I was given millimeters and I was converting to meters, I would divide and put my meters into groups of 1,000 or millimeters into groups of 1,000 to figure out how many meters that is. So if you look at this as a whole, now that I created the graphic organizer, it seems super confusing, but hopefully since I built it with you, it made sense of showing, hey, if I'm going from a larger unit to a smaller unit, it's multiplication. If I'm going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. So let me just use this graphic organizer to show you how easy it is then to solve some example problems. So my example problems are over on the side here. 5 kilometers is equal to how many meters? So I'm going from kilometers. Let me change this to a different color. I'm going from kilometers to meters. So in other words, I need to multiply by 1,000 since it tells me multiply by 1,000. So 5 times 1,000 is 5,000 meters. Excellent. Let's look at another one. So if I have 42 grams to kilograms. So now remember, I said that instead of just using meters, you can also use this as grams and and liters because it's the same thing. You're just changing the type of measurement you're doing. So in this case, if I'm going from grams to kilograms, you can see that I'm going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. So I'm dividing by 1,000. Well, when I divide by 1,000, I need to move my decimal point 3 places to the left. So this is 42 thousandths of a kilogram. 14 centimeters equals how many millimeters? So I'll do this in blue. So I'm starting at centimeters and I'm going to millimeters, which means I'm going from larger to smaller units. So I'm multiplying by 10. So 14 times 10 is 140. And then last but not least, we have 350 centimeters to millimeters. So I'm going from centimeters to millimeters. So once again here, I'm multiplying by 10. So 350 times 10 is just attached a 0. So if you want to use this graphic organizer, you can. If you're being successful just with using the metric conversions up at the top, then you may certainly do that. But I wanted to point this out to you as this organizer might be more helpful for you as you're trying to figure out when you need to multiply or divide when you're converting.